Hi, welcome back to the CI/CD tutorial. So in this part, we're going to be talking a little bit about YAML, which stands for Yet Another Markup Language. Now, in this part, we're not going to be using the terminal at all, but I keep it on the side here just so that we can have consistency between all the videos that I have. So, YAML is a markup language that allows you to do pretty much anything that needs configuration. Is a plain text human readable data serialization language, and generally it's meant to be used by applications who need configuration files. In this particular case, or at least in the relevant context you might imagine, this is used for GitLab CI/CD system, and we're going to go ahead and start using this as well for the configuration. Now, one thing that I want to mention is that in the debate between tabs and spaces, I generally suggest that you use spaces for your YAML document. Indentation in a YAML document is usually done with 1 or 2 spaces, but 2 spaces tends to be the unofficial standard that's commonly used. It's also okay to use 4 spaces, but definitely do not do 3 spaces. Alright, so as I mentioned, there's not going to be a lot of exercise, but I'm just going to go ahead and scroll through this web browser page that I have here for the tutorial, and just talk about some of the common concepts that we see in the YAML document. The first thing that you see here are what we call scalars. Now, scalars can be anything from a number value such as 42, floating points, booleans, all the way down to hexadecimal, infinity, null, plain text strings, date times, and dates. All of these are what we call scalars, because it's more or less a single value non-complex object, such as a list or a dictionary, which we'll see shortly. And all of these scalars, however, are defined by what we call a key value pair. A key value pair is denoted by having this colon separated. This colon is special because you have to remember that YAML treats colon especially if you do need to have a colon in your string, such as, for example, a key, which I have on the right side in the terminal. You will need to wrap it in quotes. This will be the only way that YAML will understand this as valid YAML and will not get confused. Now let's go ahead to more complex objects such as lists and dictionaries. So as you can see here, we have a list of different Jedi such as Yoda, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and Luke. So these are all the different Jedi that you can have as a list. The list is denoted by having a dash here. A dictionary, on the other hand, is where you have a set of key value pairs under that key. Similarly, since YAML itself is a superset of JSON, you can also write JSON style maps and sequences in the same way. For example, we can have a list as an inline list using brackets and commas, instead of having a list on new lines with dashes. And again, we can have dictionaries as you might expect them in Python or JavaScript using curly braces, instead of having this multi-level thing here that you have. Again, either way is up to you. Both of these are valid YAML examples. Now, the next part of YAML is going to be a trickier part, and it's going to be very important to understand, especially when we need to write script configurations for our CI jobs. And these are multi-line strings. However, what we're going to do instead is go to this little page that I have linked here, which is called YAML-multiline.info. And I find this page very useful to understand how multi-line strings work. And this is where instead of having a string on a single line, you want to have it on multiple lines. And there are lots of different ways to do it. So what we're going to show you here, hopefully you can see this demo that I'm highlighting. I'm going to scroll just so that you can understand. There are different ways to denote a multi-line string depending on what you want the behavior of YAML to be. So this top piece here is the YAML definition that we have. These slash n's are going to be the explicit new line characters that we have. And then this bottom piece here with the result will show you what the parsed YAML result will look like. So let's look at this YAML definition. The first one we have here to denote a multi-line string is with a caret. And what this caret does is it determines that we want to have a single new line at the end, so it chumps. Now, all of these new lines that we have here are replaced with spaces, so it's folded. Let's say, for example, we choose to keep the new lines in, where we use a vertical bar instead. You can see now that the new lines are included literally in between the blank line here. However, you'll notice that all of these new lines at the end have been chomped away. This chomping is done by default in YAML. It's called clipping or chomping, depending on what you want to do. Let's say you definitely do not want a new line at the end. You put a dash after, depending on whether you want to remove all extra new lines or not. The dash will still be there. That dash is to strip the new line from the end. Now, let's say you want to keep all new lines. Then you need to use the plus. Hopefully this makes sense, but you can go ahead and play around with this website more to understand all the different variations of how to do multi-line strings. I'm going to go back to the tutorial here. The main reason that I have this is just to highlight that multi-line strings can be handled in many different ways depending on what you want to do. What I have in the tutorial here is a way of how you might want to do this for the scripts that you're writing. You can see here that we're going to remove the new lines and replace them with spaces, and then remove the new line at the end with this dash here. And so you can see an example of how the script is folding it correctly by taking these echo foo, echo bar, echo bash, which are new lines in YAML, and we'll convert this into a single line by replacing the new lines with strings, and because of this dash, it will strip the new line from the end. Alright, that's it for multi-line strings. Let's go ahead and talk about nested objects. Now remember that above with the Jedi that we were showing here, we can have a single level list or a single level dictionary. But what if you want a list of dictionary or a dictionary whose key value pairs are list valued instead? So there are different ways that we can do nesting. So for example, we can have a nest here where request itself is just a list, which is fine. However, what we can do instead, you can see, is we can additionally have the second item here be a dictionary. Now you can see that request itself is a list by these dashes here. The first element in this list will just be a string, but the second element in this list will be a dictionary. And as long as you do the spacing correctly, YAML will understand this as a nested structure view, and this is sort of the powerful feature of it. Now for the last two things we want to talk about are comments and anchors. Now comments in YAML are just a pound sign. Now remember, like the colon, whenever you use the pound sign and you want to use it explicitly in your value, you need to put quotes around this. If we go back to the terminal, here's an example again. This will tell YAML to treat the to treat the pound literally instead of an actual interpreting it as a comment. Finally, to close up this section, there's a handy feature in YAML which are called anchors, which allow you to duplicate content across your document. And you can go ahead and look at this tutorial on how these anchors are being done here. But anchors are sort of like references in C and C++, which allow you to dereference an anchor which injects that code into the YAML document depending on how you anchor it. So for example, this is how an anchor looks like here. We use the ampersand name of the anchor, and then we can dereference it using the asterisk to dereference. It really looks a lot like pointers in C++ and dereferencing pointers in C++. So as an example, let's say we want to anchor this dictionary called base, where base has a key called name. Everyone has same name. We're going to go ahead and create an anchor called &base, so the anchor itself is called base. Then we're going to create another dictionary foo. We're going to anchor that as well. But then we're going to go ahead and inject all of the keys from base into foo. And this means that foo will have a name key, everyone has the same name, and an age key of 10. And then similarly, you can do the same thing for bar here, where now both foo and bar have the same name, but different ages. And this allows you to do sort of repetitive coding or duplicated content without explicitly copying values across your YAML document. And so that's the end of the YAML section. Tune in for understanding how we use YAML with CI/CD.